turn this thing on. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. We have a consent agenda, and I'm going to start reading all the items of the consent agenda. Mike, I forgot to push this button here. Sorry. And so if you want me to pull any item out of the consent agenda, you know to let me know. Otherwise, they become consent agenditis or something like that. And I think we have a quorum, right? All right. So this starts the meeting of the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee, August 21st. Resolution RS 2018-1362. It authorizes the Director of Public Property to the purchase of 2 flood-prone properties located at 119-121 Commerce Street for Metro Water Services. BL 2018-1289 by Sledge and Bircher. It approves the demolition of certain buildings and structures for the construction of a new major league soccer stadium at the Fairgrounds, Nashville, and amends the Metro Code to impose a privilege tax on the sale of tickets to events at the new major league soccer stadium. Council Lady Mina Johnson. All right. Next item. BL 2018-1291 by Sledge, Bircher, and Bettner declares property surplus and approves the execution of a ground lease between the Metro Board of Fair Commissioners and Nashville Soccer Holdings Development, LLC, for the construction of a development at the Fairgrounds in Nashville. And we are pulling that one too. Thank you. Next item. BL 2018-1297 by Roden, Birchen, and others. It authorizes Metro Water and Sewage Services to enter into an agreement with KJPL Riverwood LLC to fund the operation and maintenance of a public pressure sewer extension for its development at the village of Riverwood. Next, BL 2018-1298, Bircher, Bettner, and Elrod. It authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights for purposes of the Brewer Drive sidewalk improvement. BL 2018-1299, Pulley, Bettner, and Elrod. It abandons existing sanitary sewer main and easements and to accept new sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole and easements for a property located at 4000 Hillsborough Pike. BL 2018-1300 by Murphy, Bettner, and Elrod. It abandons existing sanitary sewer main and easements for property located at 211 and 231 Ainsworth Place. BL 2018-1301, Withers, Bettner, and Elrod. It abandons an existing sanitary sewer main and easement and to accept a new sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrants, and easements for 6 property located on South 6th Street. BL 2018-1302 by Kindle, Bettner, and Elrod. It authorizes Metro government to remove existing clay sanitary sewer mains and sanitary sewer manholes and to replace with new sanitary sewer mains and sanitary sewer manholes within the existing public utility easement for a property located at 2300 Patterson Street. BL 2018-1303 by Withers, Bettner, and Elrod. It abandons a portion of alley number 451 right-of-way and easements. Next. BL 2018-1304 by O'Connell, Bettner, and Elrod. It abandons a portion of Magazine Street right away. BL 2018-1170 by Councilmember Lee. It changes 6.03 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for the property located at 12452 Old Hickory Boulevard to permit up to 53 multifamily residential dwelling units. Now, I don't have a letter, and she's not here. Do you guys, this is according to the rules we established for rezonings like this, you guys didn't want me to We'll move it to the Hill. Okay. BL 2018-1229 by me being Bedne, sorry. It changes 49 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 6397 Peters Road and Peters Road number to permit 145 single-family lots. BL 2018-1245 by Sledge and O'Connell. It applies 42.96 acres of a neighborhood conservation overlay district for various properties along South Street, Villa Place, Wedgwood Avenue, 15th Avenue South, Tremont Street, and Edge Hill Avenue north of Wedgwood Avenue. Next item will be BL 2018-1253 by Councilmember Perdue. It changes 40.15 acres from CS to IWD zoning for a property located at Edenwold, did I say that right? Okay, road and number east of Gallatin Pike. Next item on the consent agenda, BL 2018-1254 by Davis and Scott Davis. It changes 0.21 acres from SP to R6-A zoning for a property located at 869 Joseph Street. There is a letter to approve. Next item for the consent agenda is BL 2018-1269 by Kindle. It changes 1.45 acres from OL to MULA zoning for property located at 511 27th Avenue North and to rezone from OL to RM20-A zoning for property located at 514, 516, and 518 27th Avenue North and 2700 Delaware Avenue. Next item by Councilmember Anthony Davis. BL 2018-1270. It changes 1.38 acres from CL R6 and R10 to MULA zoning for property located at 1528B, 1528C, 1530 Riverside Drive, and 1609 Porter Road. Next item by Council Lady Blaylock, BL 2018-1271. There's a letter to approve. It amends 1.28 acres from RS10 to SP zoning for a property located at 291 Tusculum Road to permit a two-family residential use. Next item, again by me, BL 2018-1272. It amends 5.65 acres of a specific plan for property located at 6444 and 6438 Peters Road and on a portion of property located at 6424 and 6434 Peters Road to permit the modification of layout and access points, and I have an amendment to it. And next item by Rosenberg, and he's not here, and I don't think we have a letter to approve. And that's BL 2018-1273. It amends 1.73 acres of a specific plan. So should I put it to a Hill? I guess I do. All right. Next item by Councilmember Hastings, BL 2018-1274. It changes 1 acre from R6 to MUNA zoning for a property located at 2608 Old Buena Vista Road. There is a letter to approve. Next item, BL 2018-1275 by Anthony Davis, Councilmember Anthony Davis. It applies 1.37 acres of historic landmark overlay for a property located at 1431 Shelton Avenue. And next item is BL 2018-1276. As amended by Anthony Davis, it applies 1.37 acres of neighborhood landmark overlay district for a property located at 14. Yes, ma'am? All right. Council Lady Mina Johnson has to pull it out. BL 2018-1277 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 0.38 acres from R6 to MULA zoning for a property located at 358 Glen Rose Avenue. And the last item on the consent will be Bill 2018-1278 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 0.39 acres from RS5 to MULA zoning for property located at 2207, 2209, 2211, and 2211B in Foster Avenue. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Oppose? All right, the consent passes. Thank you very much. So we are going to start with the items that were pulled out, starting with BL 2018-1289 by Councilmember Sledge and Bircher. And I'm going to read the caption, and then I'm going to give the floor to Councilmember Sledge. It approves the demolition of certain buildings and structures for the construction of a new Major League Soccer stadium at the fairgrounds in Nashville, and it amends the Metro Code to impose a privilege tax on the sale of tickets to events at the new Major League Soccer stadium. Councilmember Sledge, where are you?
Thank you, Chair. So this bill is one of two tonight that's focusing on the projects at hand, basically the entire fairgrounds improvement plan, the stadium plan, all that. So this is the bill that on third and final reading would require 27 votes to pass, because state law requires that the ticket tax require 27 votes. Then obviously with the charter amendment, any demolition of existing buildings would require 27 votes. So as you know, so tonight I will be asking for your recommendation and approval, but I want to walk through kind of the importance of where we're talking about, what it is. So ticket tax is set at a certain level, and I'll leave to legal kind of why it is at that level, because I know there was a competing piece of legislation that I think has been deferred that would have had a higher ticket tax. The ticket tax has to stay at a certain percentage of the ticket price, and then that goes to kind of, as Councilman Mendez was talking about, it goes to maintenance. I wouldn't call it deferred maintenance, but sort of the year-to-year upkeep regular maintenance. So that's where the ticket tax funding goes. It's not used for any other purpose. It's just used for that purpose, for that facility. Then when it comes to the demolition piece, so we're obviously talking about the demolition of some facilities that are currently used as the flea and expo centers, with the realization everybody I think is aware in this chamber that we're building new replacement facilities, same square footage with some consolidated space to hopefully be a little bit more efficient in the northern portion of that property. That funding comes from partly the $12 million that we've already approved in capital spending plans from 2 years past, and then of course the GO bonds that are being up for September 4th. That resolution, $25 million going to fairgrounds improvements. The vast bulk of those funds would be to make sure that those buildings are built out. The primary, I think, part of the conversation we're getting into about why these buildings would need to be demoed instead of improved, way back in this term, when we first started talking about the $12 million that was approved in the capital spending plan, about how that could potentially improve the current buildings on the current footprint. It was found that when they started going through, when the consultants were going through and working on, okay, here's what it will take to repair, get these things up to code. I mean, some of them, the HVAC is awful and hardly works if it works at all. The cost differential between replacing those buildings and repairing them was something like 10%. And so that started a conversation about, okay, what really needs to be done here? Do we need to be trying to repair these buildings, or do we really need to be starting facilities that are prepared for the future? Some of y'all know some of those buildings actually were never created for indoor use. They were outdoor sheds that were then later kind of bricked or cinder blocked up to become the facilities that we know them as today. So this demo moving forward would allow for a piece that we're all very interested in, that we're going to be speaking about, the mixed use development that has been part of this project ever since the council approved their resolution back in November of last year. That, as I mentioned yesterday, that development has been a very big piece of a conversation that's happening outside of these chambers, which is about community benefits agreement. I can come to you today and say that from what I have been told from hours and hours of meetings and negotiations today, that there has been significant progress made on that CBA. There is not an agreement yet, but that there is enough progress that has been made in some key points that I think have been in principle agreed to, that again, what I'm asking for is that the council would approve this on second reading tonight, and I ask for your recommendation in order for those conversations to continue, because I think that they are going in a very good direction, and I'm not holding anybody to any sort of recommendation vote or second vote tonight as far as how you vote when it comes to third. I would just ask that we do as we typically do, and we get the opportunity to have that conversation tonight on the floor and then move to third reading. So with that, Chair, thank you for indulging me.
No problem. Council Lady Mina Johnson, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. This ordinance, ticket portion, I do understand it. If, as a body, we approve the soccer stadium, yes, we will need some kind of revenue source. So the ticket tax portion makes sense, which is if, big if. But to me, what does not make sense is the demolition portion, because next Monday, we are going to have special meeting on BL 2018-1290, which is a zone change from existing zone to SP. A portion of that development section, ABC, is indeed, if I'm not mistaken, a portion of the building we are asked to consider for demolition. So it seems to me, why are we even discussing this tonight? To me, it's kind of disrespectful to the public. They are expecting to come front of us next Monday to express their opinion. So before hearing their opinion, and as a committee to even discuss a recommendation or not recommendation is sending the wrong message to the public. Public hearing does not make any difference. We're gonna consider and recommend it anyway. So I think that's a very, very disrespectful way for the public who will expect to show up next Monday. So if my personal opinion is, with respect to the ownership team and the council member, so I don't want to kill that ongoing conversation. I understand ongoing conversation will be going and so forth. So I'm not ready to kill tonight, but the right thing for us to do is defer this ordinance till a special meeting on Monday, or if special meeting on Monday is not procedurally appropriate, I would like to defer it to next council meeting.
All right. Councilmember Sledge, I think, wants to answer your question. So I'm going to leave you on the microphone, Councilor Mina. Sorry, it's Johnson. So you guys can have it.
So, thank you, Chair. So a couple of the points there. So just to be clear, on the Monday night agenda, meaning the 27th, that public hearing is for the zoning piece, which is the rezoning for the 10 acres of the mixed-use development that obviously will be the conversation that allows public to, in addition to the 500 emails I'm working through, to have a public input on the project. And ostensibly, and I think everyone in this room would agree, is going to be about the entire fairgrounds and fairgrounds improvement plan. And I think that's totally understandable. What I hesitate to do, I don't think, what I've been trying to do is trying to get schedules lined up so that when we have our conversation on third and final reading, we're having a very robust conversation about every piece of this, because every piece of it will be before us at that point if it is passed on second reading tonight. I am very happy to re-refer these pieces of legislation back to this committee and to every committee that's considering them. And I totally understand Councilwoman Johnson's point. I don't want in any way to give any sort of appearance that I want as much public input on this as possible. What I'm just asking is that if we're able to have committee recommendations in the second reading tonight, that would allow us the schedule to, I think, better facilitate a council-wide and public conversation. And again, I'm very happy to make the motion if we get to that point of asking for your votes or your recommendation on second, but then re-referring this to its respective committees.
So, Councilor Johnson, do you have a follow-up question for him?
No question, because to me, I understand where Councilmember Sledge is coming from, but we are talking about same place, same dirt. And in order for us to consider without public input, I think it's totally inappropriate. For that reason, I'd rather not have committee recommendation tonight, and I will welcome refer to planning zoning for prior to third reading. So if Councilmember Sledge want to move along, I do not want even consider tonight, but simply refer to planning zoning committee prior to third reading.
All right, so I have Councilmember Glover that, you want to talk about this? So let's, if you're good, I'll give the floor to Councilmember Glover.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Jameson, I read your email late actually when I got here, and I tried to scan it and make sure I could kind of make sense of it. With regards to, I asked for there to be a special called meeting on Thursday evening. With regards to putting this on the ballot, I was trying to actually read it and translate all the stuff, and I think this kind of fits into the overall conversation. Boil it down to, can we do it or can we not? Can we have a special called meeting Thursday evening? Because I've already spoken to the lawyers. We can get it on the ballot. I'm just trying to figure out what your thoughts are there.
It is not on the bill. So
actually, I would contend, I believe it is on the bill. And the reason I contend it is on the bill is because we've muddied all this stuff together. And we're looking at, right now, we're going to blend the demolition. We're going to blend a tax here. I mean, we're blending two things on this. So I do believe, again, because I think this piece of property holds a different set of rules than perhaps other things do. So before I vote to, quote, defer this, I would like to know and understand, you know, are we going to give the voters a chance to vote on this, yes or no?
I think you're asking a good question, but he's also making a good point that it's not on the caption of this bill. So I'm happy to, after we vote on this, to bring up and let you ask all the questions you may have about the referendum. But if we can just focus on this legislation we have in front of us, I think that's what we are tasked with to do. So if you're okay with that, I'm happy to give you the floor later.
Well, that's fine. I think we keep skirting the way that we're doing this stuff, and I think we keep sending a message that we really don't care what voters are saying. Thank you.
I think we do care, Councilmember Glover, and that's why if I didn't want you to speak, I wouldn't give you a microphone. So we want you to speak.
Excuse me?
If I was against you, I was trying to censor you, why did I give you the power to speak on the microphone?
Because I'm elected just like you.
That's right, sir. So I'm not trying to deny you the opportunity to speak. Okay. You keep accusing us of trying to keep you from speaking. I'm not keeping you. I'm just trying to follow the procedure. So if you don't mind, okay. Thank you, sir. So let's, who's next on this? Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would actually like to follow the lead of Councilmember Sledge and have a motion to approve tonight on second, but to re-refer to this committee on third reading at the first meeting in September.
Okay. And we have, can we listen from Council Lady Berkeley Allen before we move that motion, because she was on the queue as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's on the same topic. Can Mr. Jameson speak to, do we need to have a recommendation from the committee tonight to vote on second reading? Is that optional as long as we have a committee report by third reading? Right. So we have options on that. You know, I support a re-referral on third reading. To me, it seems fine to go ahead and vote tonight since it's on our agenda. But I do agree that having it come back before us honors the information that we'll get at the public hearing on the 27th. So I think that I'd support that.
All right. Does anybody else want to talk about this particular legislation? Okay. So you made a motion. Is there a second for that motion? So can you repeat your motion, please?
Motion is to recommend approval at this meeting with a re-referral to this committee on third reading, which would take place at the first council meeting in September.
Council Lady, you made a motion before. You want us to listen to your motion. So Council Lady Mina Johnson made a motion before. Sorry, Council Member, I forgot that. You want to repeat your motion, please?
Yes, my motion was to defer this bill to the special meeting on Monday, the 27th, or the next meeting, whichever the council
All right,
thinks
thank you.
appropriate.
And we have more people on the queue. First is Council Lady, Council Member Sledge. Hold on, I can see where you are.
We have two competing motions simultaneously.
This is a point of order, and this might be committee rules versus what's possible on the floor, but are we allowed to have two competing motions, or do we need to resolve them?
No, you can't, but the motion to defer takes precedence.
Okay.
And she made the motion before, so we have to go through her motion first.
I just wanted to make sure we were doing that procedurally. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, though. Council Member Sledge.
Just as I'm going to clarify with our council, I think I oppose the deferral motion, but I want to make sure that the council lady has the motion that she wants. I don't think it can be deferred to Monday. I think it would have to be deferred
To September 4th.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that.
So that's why I raised the question, if either Monday or Tuesday. And since moving to Monday, a special meeting is not appropriate, my motion, a renewed motion will be moved to the next meeting, next regular scheduled meeting,
All right.
September the 4th.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. I think I'm going to ask you to raise your hands if you don't mind, if you're in the committee. All right.
2, 3, 4, 5, and however you're voting.
Oppose, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion fails.
The motion failed. Thank you, Council Lady. So now we can go with Councilmember Withers' motion. Can you please repeat your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion would be to recommend approval tonight, but to re-refer to this committee on third reading, which would take place the first council meeting in September.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, if you're in favor, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4.
If you are against, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Motion passes 7.
The motion passes. So this motion passes. With the committee's permission, I'd like to give the floor to Councilmember Glover to make his case about the referendum. Thank you, Glover, Councilmember Glover, for accommodating that.
So I will make my comments brief, if I may, because we are ticking down on the clock here before we reach the 48-hour limit. My question is are we available to do a special called meeting to determine about letting the voters have their say on this? Because the voters had their say in 2011. Are we going to give them the same option? Are we basically saying, nope, we're not going to give them that option? If we do it, I've spoken, as I mentioned last night, to attorneys with the Election Commission. As long as we vote on it before midnight, then it can be filed and it can be done. So my question is, because I tried to scan your email rapidly, and I know you were busy as well today. My question is if we do a special call meeting and we notice it right now, do we fit within the guidelines of doing so?
So state law provides that you can have referendums on specific questions submitted to determine the will of the public only as specifically authorized under either the state constitution, state law, or the charter. So when you look at our charter, there's no general authorization to have referendum. There are two that we could locate that would apply to soccer stadium issues. One is on the issuance of GO bonds, and that is precisely what Councilman Cooper is already addressing.
Right.
The second is on charter amendments. This particular legislation with respect to the demolition of the buildings and the tax on tickets, that is not, there's no state law or charter provision or constitutional provision that says that is the topic of a referendum.
Okay.
So with respect to 1289, you could not. With respect to what Councilman Cooper is attempting to do, that's a legitimate basis to the GO bonds. The only remaining practical concern is, and I of course trust you, I think people expect me to do my own homework, so I did call the Election Commission, verified with Mr. Delanis that they'd stay open until midnight, so you have that opportunity if this meeting were called for Thursday, a special meeting. The problem is that if you called the special meeting on Thursday and the resolution were adopted, the mayor, he gets up to 10 days or until the next meeting to decide what to do, and he could decide to veto it. And the problem is what we deliver to the Election Commission has to be the finalized version.
And I think that would certainly be the executive branch's choice. I think that if we're going to take the vote away from the people, because we're obviously hearing a lot of different things out there, the people want to make sure they're represented in their thoughts. So the final question I'll ask of this, so apparently we could have the meeting, we could vote on it. It'd be up to the mayor to determine if he wants to let the people vote or not. If he so chooses, we could give notice then Thursday night by as late as midnight for us to let them know. The 48 hours, let's back up to the 48 hours. Because I asked yesterday for us to go ahead and put it on the agenda for us to have a special called meeting Thursday night. Where are we in that process?
So the matter is on tonight's agenda. So you don't schedule a meeting before there's an interim meeting. It
Okay.
might pass tonight, it might not. If it doesn't pass tonight and there's a request for it to be scheduling a special meeting, the charter allows you to schedule special meetings, the mayor or vice mayor, and allows them with a written notice at least 48 hours in advance. So 48 hours from whenever tonight that determination is made is when the meeting on the Thursday night could go forward, but no sooner.
So then, let me just make sure I understand this, and Chair, thank you for the indulgence. So then, because obviously I'm blurring the lines on the resolution versus the bills, et cetera. So the resolution that Councilman Cooper is talking about, that's going to come up pretty early. So we may not be able to get started at 6 or 6:30. It may be 7, 7:30, et cetera. But it would still allow us to have the opportunity to let the voters vote.
Right, but just on the GO bonds.
And I'm okay with that. Because I actually know more information than I did yesterday on that. So I think that's good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, the committee, for letting Councilmember Glover ask these questions. Next item is BL 2018-1291 by Sledge, Burchett, and Bettner. It declares property surplus and approves the execution of a ground lease between the Metro Board of Fair Commissioners and Nashville Soccer Holdings Development, LLC, for the construction and of a development at the fairgrounds in Nashville. Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Chair. So on this bill, which I'm going to be clear, I'm going to make the motion for approval and re-refer to this committee on third as well. So this, very, very briefly, is exactly what it says. It's referring to a ground lease. It's primarily talking about the same issue or item that we're talking regarding the 10 acres of mixed-use development. Yesterday in budget, we talked about how the Fair Board, in fact, has an amendment on this that I'll have to move the amendment. That the Fair Board, kind of got a negotiation where there's an additional, I think it's 16 million that would come through on this property, 16.8 based on the lease. So what I need to do is I need to move the amendment 1.
So we have a motion of this amendment. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, can I ask for you guys to raise your hands, please? If you're in favor, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Yes.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oppose, raise your hand, please.
1, 2.
Thank you.
Abstain.
We have 2 opposed and 1 abstention. The motion passes. The amendment passes.
Yeah. So now that the bill's amended, so what it does is so the bill now has an escalator that kicks in after the 30th year, and then for the rest of the term, you see within the amendment language that every 10 years there's an escalator on there. That's what accounts for the additional 16.8 million that's on top of the 6 million that was already agreed to. Again, I'll reiterate, a lot of this, the part of what we're talking about is parking revenue, and then part of what we're talking about is this lease revenue. The lease revenue does pertain in some way, shape, or form to the mixed-use development that we're going to be talking about on Monday night in our specially called meeting. Again, there's been the conversation about the community benefits agreement where they've made very good progress. They're still working on that. And so I would ask that we go ahead, approve tonight on second, and then come back to this committee on third as we have our big discussion in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glover.
So I want to make sure I'm on topic with this. This is where we're talking about the 10 acres. Am I correct, Mr. Jameson? Okay. Have we gotten a legal description of what exactly, a real estate legal description of what exactly is to be surplused, or are we still working on just a blank piece of paper here?
Is this a question to the mayor's office? To
No,
the
I'm
planning
asking
department,
Mr. Jameson.
to Mr. Jameson. Okay.
Have we gotten a legal description of the particular piece of real estate that, quote, they're asking us to surplus at this point?
We've gotten the sketch, but I don't believe we've gotten the Mets and Bounds legal description. Yet.
Okay, so then I have to wonder why, and we asked the question last night in Budget and Finance, and we heard various answers, but I really have to wonder, what exactly are we voting on? I mean, if we're going to try and proceed with this, and there's no legal description of the actual property we're talking about, then, I mean, would you buy a house and not understand that that half of it was yours and half of it wasn't? No, you wouldn't. So I don't understand why we're even looking at this, because there's been no legal description that's been provided to us to where we can actually understand what it is that, quote, we're being asked to surplus. Because with a blank piece of paper, it scares me. It says that, oh, we're going to surplus. I mean, and realistically, not trying to sound like a smart aleck, but it sounds like, I mean, they can basically come back after we've done this and do what is often done to us and say, well, no, you guys already have voted a second time here to surplus property. I just think we're getting ahead of ourselves before we understand exactly what it is we're surplusing. We all got the drawings, but there's no legal description. I don't think you would ever be able to transact a real estate deal without legal descriptions, and you wouldn't even be to this phase of it without having legal descriptions.
Okay, is there a question there?
The question is, do we have legal descriptions?
Mr. Jameson?
No, we have the sketch, but not the legal description in terms of, as lawyers put it, Mets and Bounds.
Thank you. All right. Do you have any more comments?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think we defer because it's, and so I'll move to defer because we don't have answers.
All right. We have other people on the queue. We are going to discuss the motion to defer by Councilmember Glover. Councilmember Sledge, you had a...
Yeah, just very quickly, and I totally understand the concern, and that's part of the reason I want to re-refer. And I would ask, I mean, I don't know if there's going to need to be an amendment necessarily. I guess my question is for Mike about what is necessary if we need to get sort of legal, I forget the term that you just used, but if we need to get those boundaries set, I think we all know what we're talking about on the boundaries, and if that needs to be inserted in some way, I'm happy to do so, but I would like to know what my options are, quite frankly.
All right, the underlying legislation doesn't refer to a legal description, so technically you wouldn't require that. But in terms of good practice, it's my understanding the administration is endeavoring to submit the legal description prior to third and final reading. Whether or not they'll do that by amendment, I'm not certain, but I might defer to the administration table to determine their preference.
Does anybody from the administration know?
Yes, we have been in communication with the team, and they are working on the meets and bounds description. It will be submitted for third reading. It's really up to the council as to whether you want to try. I don't think an amendment is necessary since it's already referenced in the lease. The intention was that the lease would never be executed until that was ready. So it was just going to be added in since it's already referenced in the lease.
Sure. Okay, well, that helps, and I just want all the members to know, I want to make sure that this gives everybody the assurances they need to about where it's going to go. To your point, Attorney Cooper, I know that there are descriptions of this boundary. It's not going to magically move. I mean, it's going to be there, and I'll work to make sure that whatever paperwork is needed to make sure everybody sees it, that it'll be there when it gets re-referred to this committee.
Council Lady Mina Johnson, is your comment about the motion?
Yes, thank you. So I do appreciate Councilmember Sledge's effort to, introduce the amendment, because originally it would have been $200,000 per year, and I think the sketch we received from Financial Department contains Section A and Section B and Section C. And Section A is 4.74 million, Section B is 5.43 million, Section C is 2.43 million. So 10 acres, I think it was, according to the Financial Department sketch, a total of present day value of $30 million and $100,000. So by adding years 31 to year 99, gradually adding, so we will gain additional 16.876 million, total of $22 million and $816,000 over 99 years. So I don't know if it's a good deal or not, but besides the point, this particular dot we're gonna be talking about on next Monday. So why even we are considering leasing prior to those SP zoning? That's kind of boggles my mind. So for that reason, I really cannot support it. So deferral motion will be the proper motion, because it has to become as a procedure. They're saying like a horse and a cart. You know, if you put the cart in front of the horse, maybe horse won't be able to run. It seems like that we kept doing over and over. So I think we really need to kind of have proper procedure.
Thank you, Council Lady. So we have a motion to defer. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Please raise your hand.
2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Opposed, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So the motion failed. And now we are back to the amended legislation. Do I have any more questions or comments about the legislation? All right. So we have a motion. Do I have a second? Oh, did you make a motion to approve?
So the motion is for approval with a re-referral to this committee on third.
All right. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think we're going to raise our hands just to be safe. All in favor, say aye. Raise hand.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Opposed, raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The motion passes. Thank you. Next item. Councilmember Lee, Antoniette Lee, she was here just a minute ago.
Hey, Brenda.
BL 2018-1170, changes 6.03 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for a property located at 12452 Old Hickory Boulevard to permit 53 multifamily residential units. It was on consent. Would you like to talk about it, Councilor Lee, or just move to approve?
Am I on? Oh, I don't want it to be on consent.
All right, but
So I need to move what?
you just need to move the legislation for approval.
Okay, so move for approval.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Oppose? Passes. Thank you, Councilmember, sorry. Next item, Councilmember Hager, you are not on consent. BL 2018-1268, it changes 276.49 acres from R6 to RS5 zoning, and from R10, R15, AR2A, and to RS10 for zoning for various property along Warren Drive, Hiller Drive, Hickman Street, Hickerson Street, Kitten Avenue, Scenic View Boulevard, Shelby Street, Hillman Place, Rayon Drive, Ensley Avenue, Swinging Bridge Road, and Newell Avenue. Oh, sorry, let me turn this on. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the one we had our last public hearing on. I have a substitute ordinance, so I move for approval of that substitute ordinance.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, so we've got it.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Oppose? Passes.
At this time, I'd move the bill as substituted with any amendments. Is there an amendment on that, Lisa? I think it's just a substitute, right? Because I opted out some of the people that wanted out of it.
It's just a substitute.
Go ahead.
The substitute acknowledges the properties that the Planning Commission recommended for removal, as well as the properties that you
That's
wanted
fine.
to opt
All
out.
right.
So they're all in one.
Thank you. So I move the bill as substituted at this time.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Oppose? It passes. Can somebody get Rosenberg, please? While we wait for Rosenberg, let's do Anthony Davis legislation that was pulled out. BL 2018-1276. It applies 1.37 acres of neighborhood landmark overlay district for a property located at 1431 Shelton Avenue. Councilmember Anthony Davis, if I can find you. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Obviously, I'll ask for someone on the committee to move it once, whenever you're ready. But yeah, appreciate you guys moving forward with this tonight. Just want to mention a couple things. Of course, this is our neighborhood landmark for Ivy Hall. We also have a concurrent historic landmark overlay that I think you approved on consent. You've got a packet on your desk that David Kleinfelter and others that are helping with the project, along with the owner, submitted that just talk about the process we went through, the protections that we're getting with the overlays, talking about the residential character of the neighborhood, that most of the surrounding neighbors and broader Inglewood are in favor. We have gone through multiple public meetings with this process. Of course, the Planning Commission voted in favor as well. We're locking in a lot of protections for the property with this, including, most importantly, but not limited to this, not being able to subdivide and build more on that large acreage. And then, of course, the ever-important neighborhood landmark overlay that the owners agreed to do, again, concurrently with this, that gets us all exterior reviewed in the future for Ivy Hall. I'll tell you, I know there's a couple members, or at least one, that wanted to discuss this, but just through our process, I think it's the right thing for Inglewood. I think, you know, the neighbors have gone through this, we've poured over it, and we built consensus. You know, you guys were here for the public hearing. We did have vast majority in support. There was, I believe, one Inglewood neighbor that showed up against, and then we had, you know, others that don't live in Inglewood against. So
Got two more items, this one, yeah.
I think it's not setting up a bad precedent. I'll go ahead and talk about that. It is a very unique and special property that we're doing a neighborhood landmark on. It's not some commercial proliferation into the neighborhoods, that sort of thing. We have things like daycare home, church, other uses, historic home events that are even more obtrusive than this. I know it's just kind of because of the home recording studio being the use that's, you know, sort of the kind of public aspect of this, but it is not any kind of precedent or commercial proliferation, at least in my opinion. So open to questions and comments on what Inglewood went through with this process and any further input. And then finally, Chair, I'll mention that we did do an amendment that for any potential legal concerns that came up, I know Mr. Summers raised in some emails. So we heard that and we went ahead and submitted this amendment to make sure the use was in there. And then I've also even filed an ordinance just later on for a broader fix. We're going to fix that area of the charter or the code, I'm sorry, the code to fix this this sort of use issue and ensure we're compliant. But we did do an amendment on this bill that we've already submitted. So I'll take any discussion and questions.
Thank you, Councilmember. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions to planning table. I am very in support of previous bill 1275. I think that's a great tool to, further preserve as a historical landmark overlay. And that's a beautiful house, and I totally understand it. But studio, I think when 1276 was discussed, it was approved 5-3. Do you remember what kind of a concern was pressed by 3 descendant voters?
I don't have the minutes with me, and I wouldn't want to misstate what their opposition was. I think that there were general concerns about the commercial use, but I don't have the minutes with me, so I wouldn't want to misstate their objections.
Okay. I was watching thanks to the Metro IT, and several commissioners was expressing it is appropriate to allow commercial use, like you said, like a music studio in the middle of the neighborhood, residential zoning. That was a concern raised by 3 commissioners at the planning meeting. And also the amendment language. I think this amendment language was introduced to specifically allow multimedia production use and detached accessory dwelling unit. So amendment A and B. This particular amendment, is it considered at the Planning Commission, or this amendment was inserted after the Planning Commission made a recommendation?
No, what the Planning Commission looked at with this one, typically the neighborhood landmark overlay is a 2-step process. The first step is the establishment of the overlay, and the second step is the review of a development plan wherein the Planning Commission would look at the uses, the layout, the parking, et cetera, for the site. In this case, this applicant brought the overlay and the development plan together. So the Planning Commission recommendation was a recommendation of approval of the overlay, but also of the development plan, which included the specific uses that were listed in the amendment, and included a specific site plan that the Planning Commission has reviewed and approved already.
I thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. I pretty much appreciate Council Member Anthony Davis' effort to preserve that beautiful neighborhood, and particularly this area has been a neighborhood conservation overlay, and putting that neighborhood historical landmark overlay is a good direction to go into. However, just allowing commercial use in the middle of the residential, it just makes me uneasy, because it seems like just allowing illegal usage to preserve this historical house. So to me, I just cannot support it. While I do appreciate effort, but I'm not there to support it.
So Councilmember Withers was there? Okay. Go ahead. I think your mic is on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the concerns raised by Councilmember Amina Johnson. I have had a fair amount of experience with neighborhood landmarks. I actually have 3 neighborhood landmarks that I know of that exist in District 6, one of which I inherited, 2 of which I worked on revisions to. But I think that my colleague, Councilmember Anthony Davis, has done a really good job on this one. Sometimes you do come before the neighbors with a neighborhood landmark saying, is this a structure that you would support alternative uses for in order to preserve them more or less as they are on the exterior? But then, unlike a specific plan, that potential use could change at some point in the future. So that is a matter of some trepidation for some neighbors. We actually have a neighborhood landmark that was previously approved in District 6 on Shelby Avenue. The original use that was proposed ended up not being feasible in the market, and they came back before the Planning Commission with a different use, which is also really good. I have one that was approved in 2001 by this council body. It took that many years to find a site plan that most people could generally agree on. I've got another one, also a church building.
Councilmember, I hate to cut you off, but we are under the gun.
Sure. So I guess what I'm saying is I fully support this. I think Councilmember Davis has done a great job of eliminating some of that uncertainty about what that eventual use could be, and I would encourage my neighbors to, other colleagues to support it. If these colleagues are uncomfortable with having a neighborhood landmark in their district, they don't have to approve one. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Lady Sharon Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This sounds very much like one that we previously voted down, and I understand that the use has been changed, but I don't think we should change the uses of land in order to accommodate what it is that we're trying to do. And if it was not good the last time, then I don't understand how it's good this time. And just seems like a double standard to me, and I think we need to be consistent in the things that we do.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis, you want to speak again, or should we?
Just hope that, again, the committee will support. I was going to say, just to further that point, we did do the development plan or the site plan up front just to, again, have that transparency. We wanted the community to understand what we were doing with the landmark overlay and then do that. And then, again, I appreciate the comments about the historic landmark overlay. We weren't doing that without this. That came with the deal. That was the give back. One of the givebacks to the neighbors is, hey, we're going to also, you're in a conservation overlay. We're going to give you extra protections on this historic Ivy Hall where all the exterior will now be reviewed in perpetuity. That went along with this. That was the give back.
Thank you. Councilmember Hager and Council Lady Berkeley Allen.
Yeah, this is for...
Unless it's not urgent, just keep it short. Thanks.
I'm keeping it short. What constitutes a historic landmark? This is for planning.
We look at several different factors. Mainly, it's the qualifications of listing in the National Register.
Was this house on the National Register?
It is listed in the National Register.
When was it built?
I apologize, I don't have that date in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay. So what has it got to be, over 100 years old or what?
About that. It's significant for its architect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you. I want to follow up on what Mr. Hager was asking about. I think the difference here is the other projects that we disapproved was simply an SP, which allowed for neighborhood input, and I understand that because I think that's what this is all about. But it was an SP just because they wanted to. And in this case, this is a tool to preserve a historically significant house that we created the neighborhood landmark overlay specifically for this purpose. And this, if we just hate the neighborhood landmark overlay in general, then we have another discussion about doing away with it. But the council created it specifically to allow uses so that properties could be saved. And that's the difference between this and the SP, so that we're not being inconsistent. This is a special tool for a very special property.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so Councilmember Anthony Davis made a motion to approve, I believe. Did you make a motion? There's a motion to approve. You already, do you want to speak again?
I'm just trying to figure out, is there not going to be a studio in this place or not?
Hold on, let me put you on the mic. Yes, Council Lady Hunt.
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out if there's a studio in this place or not.
A music studio?
Yes, where it's for commercial use like the other one was.
Councilmember Davis will answer your question.
Yes, ma'am. That is what is planned in the development plan. It's a home recording studio use that is allowed in the neighborhood landmark plan. What Council Lady Allen was saying is the difference is we're doing it with this neighborhood landmark overlay. It's a different tool on a very historic site that warrants it versus an SP, just a different zoning tool. That was what she was saying.
All right, you want to make a motion? Councilmember Davis?
I would ask the committee to move approval. I'm not on the committee.
You can, sorry.
Right.
I move approval.
Council Lady Murphy, who always gives me a hard time, she's reminding me that she made a motion, so do I have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, it passes. Thank you very much. Councilmember Rosenberg. Your legislation is the last one. BL 2018-1273. It amends 1.76 acres of a specific plan for property located at 7860 Learning Lane and 8236 Collins Road to permit a self-service storage facility. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for moving this around. I would ask that the committee approve this.
So there's a motion to approve. There is a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you for your patience.